you don't get more masculine than Lord Shiva. And he's so respectful of the feminine as well. There's a temple in Maharashtra, the Khandoba temple, where Hindus and Muslims worship Lord Shiva. The cool kids to old traditional people in Tripura, they all worship him.
So Amish, welcome to rediff.com.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your new show and what kind of research went into the series and what are the new discoveries you've had through the season?
The best part about this show that Discovery TV has put together is we explore Lord Shiva across the Indian subcontinent, across various social classes, across different temples, across different geographies, across people speaking different languages, and the variety, from Kailash temple in Maharashtra to Unakoti in Tripura to Kedarnath ji and Pashupatinath ji in Uttarakhand and Nepal to Arunachaleshwara in Tamil Nadu. We've been everywhere. And you would think that all these people are so diverse, so different, but they're all united by their love for Lord Shiva, which made this documentary such a special. I would have done it for free, but Discovery fortunately paid me a little bit for it.
Okay, so it's a win-win for you.
It's a win-win for me.
Amish, I'm sure you know this. Your books have played a significant role in, kind of also influencing the youth and also making mythology so accessible to the young readers.
You're too kind to me. Thank you.
How and why did you think that Shiva would be an apt subject to explore?
Um, my first book, Immortals of Meluha, I started writing around 2005, 2006. It got published in 2010. I started writing around that time. I was a banker. I wrote my first two books along with my banking job. So I wasn't really planning or strategizing anything when I was writing. I didn't even think I would become a published author, let alone best-selling enough that I can make my living from it.
Self-published your.
I self-published my first book. So I was just writing for myself and for my family. They had no choice; they had to read it. And since it began as a pure philosophy book, an exploration into that question, what is evil? I guess the best hero for a story to explain that philosophy is the destroyer of evil himself, Lord Shiva. It's kind of logical. I also come from a Shaivite family where I find Lord Shiva as a very fascinating god. As one of my younger readers had said, he's the dude of the gods.
Okay.
He is, for those of us who are naturally a little rebellious, naturally slightly anti-elitist in nature, for us, Lord Shiva is like, is the ideal. All respect to all other gods and goddesses, but Lord Shiva is a natural god for people like us. So maybe that fascination also played a role.
And it has continued.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lovely Sanskrit sloka, Yadyat karma karomi tata dakilam shambho tavaradhanam. That every act that I do, every karma of mine, my Lord Shambho, my Lord Shiva, is a prayer in your honor. Yeah, I live like that.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with him.
That shows in your writings. As someone who has, written extensively about Shiva, and especially in this age of armchair activists, where anything you write can also be, taken in the wrong sense, like what happened with one post about Sati. We saw that. How do you balance creative storytelling to, staying true to the essence of these legends?
I think India, and if you go back to our past, we have a rich tradition of debate. And I think the first step towards civilization is when a man hurls an argument rather than a stone. There is nothing wrong with argumentation and with debating, but we must follow our Indian traditions. Natya Shastra, there's this wonderful line, Satyam Bruat, Priyam Bruat, Na Bruat, Satyam Apriyam. Speak the truth, speak it with love. If you cannot speak it with love, then stay silent. It's not saying speak the untruth or the truth according to you, because who can claim what the universal truth is, right? So debate, but with manners, with politeness. That's what leads to light rather than heat. One of the misfortunes of the modern day is we are importing the Western approach to debating, which you find in some of our TV channel debates as well. I mean, some of them are so loud you can turn the TV off, you can still hear them. And there, the point isn't to uh, genuinely listen to the other person, because you just might learn something and then form your arguments. That's what Purva Paksha and Uttar Paksha is supposed to mean. I listen to you first and then Uttar Paksha. Right? In today's day, we followed that Western approach, sadly. We follow it, tend to follow it, which is you can make out that the guy debating is not even listening to the other guy. All that he's doing is preparing a zinger in his mind, which can go as a reel or, okay, he shut him up. I mean, that's what's the point of that? Debating is good. That's where truth emerges. There are on this specific debate that you spoke of. I'm a very proud Indian. I'm very proud of our culture. I've never hidden that. But I also speak of things where I think our culture did things which were mistakes, which were wrongs, like the caste system. I've opposed it strongly. I've written against it repeatedly in my books and my non-fiction books. But there are some things where I feel our ancestors have been unfairly targeted by colonial propagandists. Because if you read our ancient scriptures, evidence doesn't seem to back up. And out there, I think it's our duty to defend our ancestors calmly with arguments, and let there be a debate. Why not?
So
Polite
basically,
debate with
start a
manners.
conversation.
Polite debate with manners. One of the things that's sadly forgotten is the value of good manners in today's day. You can debate while still keeping your voice calm, speaking politely to the other guy. You don't have to, insult the person's background or his motivations. Just debate the point calmly with manners. And you'll be surprised the other person may actually be willing to hear and listen to the other guy's point, or other guy or girl's point with an open mind. You might learn something too.
True. With the rise of digital media and audiobooks and streaming adaptations, how do you think storytelling in India is changing? And do you think Ramayana or Mahabharata should be taught in schools in history, or do you think it should be taught as non-fiction?
It doesn't matter which section it is taught in, but it must be taught. Our entire education system is such, and I've said it, I've spoken about it also often. It's almost like पढ़ा लिखा के बच्चे को अंग्रेज बना दो बस. Don't teach him anything about our own culture. I haven't seen any other country that does this. It's almost like we are embarrassed about teaching anything about our own culture. We'll teach Pythagoras, but we won't teach Bodhayana. When Pythagoras himself said that he learned from India. Bodhayana discovered Pythagoras' theorem, by the way, 200 years before. It's there in the Shilpa Sutras. We will teach Al-Khwarizm on algebra. We will not teach what Al-Khwarizm himself said, that he learned it from Indians. His book, the title is, if I remember correctly, Kitab al-Hisab al-Hindi, the book of Hindi mathematics. Okay, and the Arab Al-Khwarizm. We don't teach this stuff, and we want to teach literature. We will teach Shakespeare. We will not teach Kalidas or Bhasa or Thiruvalluvar or
Is it
Mirza
because
Ghalib.
it's mythology and not history?
What I'm talking about to you is literature and mathematics. In every area, when you were young, you were probably taught there are 4 seasons in school. At least that's what I was taught: summer, autumn, winter, spring. I'd raise my hand in the second standard, "Ma'am, monsoon kahan gaya?" India actually has 6 seasons. Europe has 4 seasons. इसमें mythology कहाँ है भाई? मतलब seasons भी आपको गोरा बनना है. Okay, this our entire thing of somehow Europeanizing everything in India is self-defeating. Look at the building we're in. It's a glass wall building. It makes sense in Western Europe where it's cold and there's a shortage of the sun. Does India have a shortage of the sun or an excess of the sun? In our climate and atmosphere, a glass wall building makes utterly no sense. It's a giant microwave oven. Why are we building this? Because architects also want to be European. Okay, you will not teach them, our own traditions in architecture. Our entire education system is to colonize us, and we can keep blaming the British, but they've been gone for 75 years. If we decolonize our education system, the King of England is not going to come to Pragati Maidan and do a protest. How dare you decolonize? Who's stopping us from decolonizing? Connect to our own roots. Teach outside stuff as well, but connect to our own roots.
True.
It's good for us. It's a good idea to be aware of where you're actually living. Be educated people.
Amish, one of the other discussions that we're seeing is, with films like Chava and Padmavat, being based in history. Do you think we are rewriting or recreating history with a parallel story? And do you think this is a dangerous trend? Like, we've been taught about these legends, that they have a certain background or a certain history. Now we are seeing films that are completely contradicting or bringing a new dimension to the character.
I said
Just
earlier already,
because
I think debates are good. And history is always told from the perspective of the people you're actually writing from. Winston Churchill, I lived in the UK for 4.5 years. For the British, Winston Churchill, very rightly a hero. He saved them. For Indians, very rightly, he's a monster. Worse than Hitler. Hitler didn't kill any Indians. Winston Churchill killed 4 million of our fellow Indians in a man-made famine that he ordered. The Great Bengal famine, between 3 to 4 million people. So history is actually about the perspective that you come from. I think one of the mistakes our establishment historians did was calling what was Turkic colonial rule as Islamic invasions. They don't call the British colonial rule as the Christian invasions. Movies add to the confusion. When they show British invaders, they always show white people speaking English. But when they show Turkic invaders, they will show Ranveer Singh or Hrithik Roshan speaking Urdu. So you think they are Indian Muslims? No, they weren't. Indian Muslims were as oppressed as Indian Hindus in that era. To us, they would have looked Chinese actually. They weren't Chinese. They're the same people who oppressed China as well, by the way. They're from Central Asia. They looked Mongoloid. They had Mongoloid features.
Right.
They did not speak Urdu. Urdu is our language. It's an Indian language. They would have spoken Turkic or Persian. They were foreigners. Why shouldn't we speak honestly about foreigners' crimes upon us?
Right.
And I think it was extremely mischievous what establishment historians did by calling Turkic colonial rule as Islamic invasion. They created poison in our society. Like I said, you don't call the British colonial rule the Christian invasion. You're clear in your mind. Indian Christians had nothing to do with the British oppressors. What does an Indian Christian have to do with Winston Churchill? Nothing. Or Robert Clive. So what does an Indian Muslim have to do with Alauddin Khilji? Do you know Indian Muslims weren't allowed into Agra during Timurid Mughal rules? Do you know that? Pasmanda Muslims. They weren't allowed into the fort. Only foreigner Muslims were allowed. Turks, Afghans, Persians.
Just one last question. 3 lessons from Shiva that everyone can learn and be inspired from.
That you can be strongly masculine while still being respectful of the feminine. You don't get more masculine than Lord Shiva. And he's so respectful of the feminine as well. That is one example. The second example is inclusivity. Without forcing anyone to change. There's a temple in Maharashtra, the Khandoba temple, where Hindus and Muslims worship him, worship Lord Shiva. People from Nepal to Tamil Nadu worship him. Young, the cool kids in Isha Ashram to Old traditional people in Tripura, they all worship him. And he doesn't force anyone to, you have to become this way, you have to become that way. Accepting and inclusive of everyone. I think that's a second wonderful thing that you can learn from it. The third thing is yoga. He is the Adi Yogi. Learn that. We speak of that too in the documentary.
Okay.
It's good for you.
Thank you, Amish.
मेरा बचपन रोमांचक पौराणिक कहानियों को सुनते हुए गुजरा। कहानियां जिनके पात्र अक्सर मेरी रियलिटी में समा जाते, पूरे यकीन के साथ। मेरा नाम अमीश है और मैं एक राइटर हूं। किरदारों की इस आकाश गंगा में मुझे एक ऐसा कैरेक्टर मिला जो मेरे अंदर के रेबल से जुड़ गया। क्रिएटर भी वो और डिस्ट्रॉयर भी, तपस्वी भी वो और नर्तक भी। हर रूप में है, फिर भी उनका कोई रूप नहीं। वो हैं भी और नहीं भी। वो हैं शिव। शिव मेरा जुनून बन गए। He fired my imagination and compelled me to become a writer. पर जितना मैं शिव को जानता गया, उतना ही उनका रहस्य गहराता गया।
I thought I was a rebel until I heard of Shiva.
शिव एक हैं तो अनेक कैसे हैं? आखिर क्यों हैं उनके इतने विभिन्न रूप और आकार?
ऐसा क्यों है कि शिव को हम लिंग से पूछते हैं, किसी और को तो लिंग से नहीं पूछते?
उनके अस्तित्व को जानने के लिए मैं निकला हूँ अपने राइटिंग रूम से बाहर।
जो भी हम योग अभी जान रहे समझ रहे वो शिव जी से ही आए।
साउंड के जो प्रथम देवता हूँ भगवान शिव है।
ये शिव जी का ही वरदान है कि ये स्पेस का इतना महिमा है। हियर डेथ इज सेलिब्रेटेड।
हिमालय से लेकर दूर दक्षिण तक, नदी, शमशान, पर्वत, पाताल, घोर अघोर अनोखे रिवाजों में तलाशेंगे हम शिव के रहस्यों के जवाब।
I've seen Aghoris sitting on a dead body.
कैलाश टेम्पल पूरा मोनोलिथिक है और ऊपर से नीचे आया गया है।
शिवलिंग्स की जितनी भी स्थापना यहाँ पे पेनिनसुलर पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया में की है, वो सारे के सारे ये रेडियोजेनिक इग्नियस रॉक्स के साथ की है।
Science without spirituality or spirituality without science, I don't think can ever exist.
इन उलझी हुई पहेलियों को समझने और सुलझाने के लिए मैं निकल चला हूँ एक महायात्रा पर।